Okay, let's get started as soon as YouTube is up and running. Good. All right. Please stand. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, everybody. Bob?
Bow our heads. Again, Father, we thank you for this day in our lives. We thank you for blessing this squadron with their safety, for their travels, and for the learning we've had in the past years. Give us guidance through you. Give those who are still en route some safety. Be with our friends, family, and those who serve our country. Father, we just ask that guardian angels to provide them with guidance, safety, and good health. In your name we pray.
Amen. Okay, Dave, do we have anybody on YouTube?
Not yet.
Not yet. Okay. Well, as usually, we'll start with a few housekeeping things, updates on what's going on within our wing, within our group, and within our unit. Lon, would you please update on aircraft?
Sure. So it's flying good. I had a request to tape the window closed, secure it closed, because of a write-up that I put in there about the window frame elongated where the linkage connects to the window frame. And so they're ordering that. It's going to be some time. Gary wanted me to put a log entry into the airframe logbook, and I did that, stating that it's taped shut until we have a new one replace it. Flew it the other day, it was flying well. I noticed that there was a quart of oil put in today actually, but not big deal because we've flown it probably 6 hours since the oil change. And something interesting, they only put 7 quarts of oil in when they changed the oil. So it dropped down all the way to 6 quarts the flight after I got out of maintenance. And then stayed there for a couple flights after that. Let's see, what else? I had to put another sign in the hangar, or I did, from your request about don't park in front of the hangar. So the airport manager's apparently going around and making sure that the aisles, the airplanes can get through without cars parked there. And so he doesn't have any evidence of people parking in front of our hangar, but so he had asked whoever's complaining about that to take pictures so they could document whoever's obstructing the airway there. What else?
That's my question. Are they speaking of the one that's just adjacent to this? Or are they talking like the one that's behind us?
I never did get a clear answer on that.
Because this is not a taxiway. That is.
No. No, it's probably in front of our hangar potentially.
Oh, okay.
And it may be a gentleman that used to be a member here that has a hangar at the end of that aisle of hangars. I won't bring up his name, but anyway, when I asked the airport manager about this, he couldn't give me specifics, not even about in front of our hangar, if it's us or if it's other people. So I was I didn't get a good response other than whoever's complaining needs to document it with pictures now. So
If somebody is using our aircraft, would that person park there, or would they park around the corner like they're supposed to?
Other pilots that come in from outside of our squadron, I don't know because I'm not here. It's potentially somebody could be parking in front of the hangar, but most people, I think, would park in that carve-out spot if they're going to park there at all. A lot of people just walk through the fence.
Yeah, potentially it could be due to all rights. So I noticed some of the pilots who use aircraft kept here they gather cadets at the gate, and then they initiate the ride from the hangar. So I will talk to Mike Brennan specifically because I observed him spending unreasonable amount of time having aircraft parked in front of the hangar, going through the pre-flight and showing the cadets, show and tell about aircraft to cadets. I think is not good, and also he takes longer time than normally going through starting sequence. His start sequence may last half an hour.
Wow.
So that could be part of the problem, so I'll address it with him, but he's flying a lot of cadets. My personal advice to him, pick up cadets at the terminal. A, you are not blocking the way. B, it's safer because there is a flight school right next to our hangar. And C, it's easier for cadets. Even if you are delayed, they have something to do there. They can stay in the terminal. So that would be one of the problems. All right. So let's move on. Any questions on aircraft? Good. Next on my list, wing alerting officer duty. There is an email distributed by Josh Zidmiller. Sorry, I cannot pronounce his name possibly. Probably he cannot pronounce mine. To answer the phone, pick up some dates. It's just requirement for us to be able to pick up search and rescue missions to be able to respond to a phone call. For those who is pursuing any emergency services ratings, please keep in mind there is a SAREX coming up, hosted by San Diego Senior Squadron 57. August 19th through 20th at USP Field, KSPE. The email about the subject came from senior member Walter Sharp. So check it out. There is a sign-up spreadsheet. Click on it. You'll have to sign in with your copy mail to be able to respond to it. And indicate what kind of rating you pursue. I don't know yet if anyone is going from our end. I know our aircraft is actually scheduled for counter-evacuation mission, so there will be no aircraft flying from here. That's for sure, because except for this coming weekend, 2 weekends in a row, the aircraft is scheduled to go for CD mission. Any questions on SAREX? Okay. Next, there will be Cadet Field Day on August 26th. So our group is seeking volunteers to help organizing the event. There is a certain ratio of seniors to cadets required for the event to take place. Last year, the group couldn't get enough senior members to support the event, but it's a big opportunity for cadets to demonstrate their skills acquired. So if you are available on that date, please consider participating in the event. I will be flying cadets that day, so I'm not going. But if you're interested, search for the email from Major Banner, our group commander, and respond to it as requested. There will be additional training held in, I think, Upper California by, I don't recall right now, I can look it up if anyone is interested, but they will be hosting an event for Emergency Services Training Academy. The sign-ups are due no later than August 13th, and the email came from Captain Mateos, Luis Mateos. So check it out. If you're interested, you cannot find email, let me know, I'll forward it to you. For those who is going after CEP level 2 professional development and would like to attend in-person class, there is a great opportunity at Whiteman Airport, which will be happening August 12th and 13th. The email sent by Captain Bagheri, Faramars Bagheri. So again, if you're interested in level 2 and want to get it done quickly in just 2 days, focus effort, check that email. You just search for CAP level 2 and it will pop up. Any questions on that? Finance update. We are barely breaking the ground with the budget. We are a little short. Major Pratt helped again. He donated another portion of funds which will keep us afloat through August. We only need to cover September and we will work with finance committee to calculate exact shortage. Based on my assessment, if members who can contribute the additional $100 still go through, I think we'll be good. For new members who just joined, you are good. You paid the dues and the supplemental dues, so don't worry about it. All right, any questions? Yes.
Not really a question, just a reminder, there's also a communication exercise tomorrow evening.
Okay.
And that is in the entire wing, so if someone's interested in that, there's been emails from Josh Ranzuglia as well. Also, there's communication training occurring here, August 12th. If people are interested in that, there's an email on that as well.
Okay, good. So, for example, if you just want to get familiar with CAP radio, understand how the CAP communication works, what is the protocol, maintaining communications, and so on and so forth, that will be a good opportunity for you to attend. And for onboarding, for pilots going through onboarding, ICAT, I believe, is a requirement. So please consider doing that. That will help you on the practical side. At least ICAT is a requirement for MO, right?
For TMP, I think.
Well, yeah. And you have to go through
MO,
TMP anyway.
TMP. I'm not sure for CAPVFR though.
CAPVFR, no, it's not
But
required.
yeah, MO, TMP.
Yes?
What is that?
Real missions, no play. In other words, it's not an exercise.
Fun time.
Oh.
All right. So, for today, we're supposed to discuss emergency services, but if you are interested, I can share my experience flying to Oshkosh and talk about specific matters related to flight planning, going such a long distance, challenges I had to deal with, weather-related, and some in-person experience at Oshkosh. So, raise your hands if you would like to hear that. If not, we'll go to emergency part. All right? So 50-50, so I guess. Oh, sounds good. So I'll start with sharing flight planning process. Yeah, probably will be good with that. And that will, at least for pilots who work with ForeFlight, will help with few hints and tricks on how to use ForeFlight more effectively. So I'll share the screen. For those on Teams, and it will be here in a moment. So, guys on Teams, can you see it? All right. So, planning for long distance and ForeFlight is actually very complex experience. Most of us fly short flights, right? We go maybe 2-3 hours ahead, but this flight was total one way going there. Took me more than 15 flying hours. So first of all, going to Oshkosh starts with understanding the NOTAM for arrival to Oshkosh. And this NOTAM is published usually 1 month in advance before the air venture, or more, so at least one month in advance. And pilots can, of course, download that NOTAM or from the EAA website, or actually order a printed copy for free. So they will send it to you via US mail, and you'll have a nice paper copy of it. I didn't do that. Initially, I downloaded it from EAA, but in a ForeFlight, if you go to Documents, well, I know it's not clickable, and you scroll to ForeFlight folder, you have obviously the manuals and stuff, but there is also Oshkosh notice. So it talks about every single aspect of flying to Oshkosh via IFR or VFR options, and studying that and actually going on YouTube, finding good videos referenced by EA is absolutely a must. So I studied it well, I understand how I get there and what FISC arrival looks like. So once I realized the process involved getting there, I started planning. So I went to the maps, oh, sorry, it's not clickable, although it's shareable, and I created basic arrival route. So in ForeFlight, by the way, there is an option to create a route and save it as your favorite. Since I was looking at different options, I mapped out actual FISC arrival using the waypoints advised in the NOTAM. And then I saved it as a favorite, so let me find that. Okay, this is what the last, how many miles? Last 40 miles look like from the NOTAM perspective. So I mapped these points and I indicated my limits. So I have to arrive at the initial point at 90 knots and at 1800 feet. MSL. Yeah, it's challenging, but it can. So I had to be very disciplined on power management because my aircraft doesn't want to slow down. So that's what it looks like. And you see, it doesn't end at Oshkosh. Why? Because at the last point, which is FISC, you will be told which way you go, which runways are in use, and they will send one aircraft north if, let's say, 09 is used, and one aircraft to the east if 36 left and right is used. So that's why that last element is not there. So after that, I looked at it. Okay, that's pretty far distance for me to get there, right? So how do I go about it? So do I go north and cross Rockies up north, or I go south through New Mexico and Albuquerque part? And then I looked at the weather and the trends in the weather, what it looks like, and what would be more challenging for me and for my aircraft. Altitudes I can handle. Do I fly high? Do I get oxygen with me? What do I do? Well, last year I flew with CFII, who is also an airline pilot, and he's teaching mountain flying. So he took me through the north route. And the reason was exactly the same as this year. The weather south was a lot worse. There was a lot more thunderstorms. There was a lot more convective activity and much hotter. And actually, because of the hotter air, there was a lot more weather. So I again decided to go north route, and I started charting my flight. So that I'll show you how it looks in just a moment. So that would be my first leg. So I knew I will go to northern Utah, and I started looking at altitudes along the course. So first, of course, it was direct line, and then I started twisting it to different waypoints and navigational aids to help me actually stay low, reasonably low, avoid use of oxygen and cross those pesky mountains. So first part of flight, well, as you can see, this part of flight was about 4 hours. So it shows here 3 hours 41 minutes ETA, but it's based on present conditions. When I was planning it, it was very close to 4 hours, slightly short of 4 hours. I selected maximum altitude of 11,500, and I did bring some supplemental oxygen in form of boost cans. I ended up using one through that process, and it did help. My oxygen levels at times fell to about 86 based on oximeter, and I started feeling a little lightheaded. And I realized, okay, I checked my oximeter readings, I checked my Apple Watch, they actually agreed on numbers, and I used the boost oxygen. So how terrain looked like, and why I felt comfortable flying it. So if we actually look at the profile, we see that sometimes it shows, well, there is a strike, right? I can assure you there was no strike. Strike comes into the picture because the foreflight does not really guide you around the mountain perfectly. It shows you path from point to point. So when you get there, you actually start assessing the terrain and the wind also, right? So which direction the wind is blowing and which part of the canyon you want to take. So I stayed on a safer side wind-wise and maintained good altitude. My AGL at this altitude never was less than about 1,500 from the ground. And I try to stay closer to some airport or road, or there is actually surprisingly a lot of dirt strips for survey purposes, geographical survey, geological survey purposes. So I was always on lookout, so engine fails now, what do I do, and so on and so forth. So I'll skip the first part, which wasn't so interesting, all the way around Vegas. So you can see I didn't actually go across Class Bravo. I skimmed southeast of it. It gave me good opportunity to divert towards, let's say, Boulder City if I had any kind of trouble. And there is a lot of smaller airports in the area. And if weather changed, I had options to adjust my course. So from there, I went to St. George, flew over St. George, enjoyed nice views of Zion National Park, beautiful pictures. And if I enable Hazard Advisor, for example, well, obviously it's all red right now, but when you're in flight and you're at actual altitude, it highlights in yellow and red what is proximity to the ground at every point of time. So I had two tools for situational awareness. For flight is one, and second, actual GNS 530 WAS GPS in my aircraft. So I have it current with all the maps and everything, and it works similar way. So one of the views in route gives me an opportunity to see the terrain and how far am I laterally and vertically. So of course I'll remove the hazard advisor. That I chose to depart very early in the morning for one reason. Winds are calm, right? Well, two reasons. Winds are calm, and as a consecutive reason, there is not a lot of weather which would interfere with the flight. So no thunderstorms, no turbulence. It was a pretty much smooth ride almost all the way to Vernal Airport. And I'll talk a little bit about Vernal arrival, what was difficult about it. So from St. George, I went over to Cedar City VOR, and I was looking all the way. You can see here, for example, right? So this is my path, and there are some mountains with peaks close to my altitude, but I was staying significantly off the mountains, flying mostly in the valleys. of different kind, different bottoms. So for example, this was an interesting area right here from Cedar City going over to Junction. And when you train to IFR, you actually see all these airports a lot, because it's a mountain flying. The minimum and route altitudes are pretty high, and we talk about oxygen, supplemental oxygen during the training, etc. So you see all these waypoints and nav aids and airports and in the training. So here, when we look how we cross from one valley to another, I found this lower point where the ground is anywhere like 8,000, 7,500, etc. 8,700. So obviously I flew not exactly this way. I extended a little bit west and then crossed short in this area. So that I had tailwinds, right? So when in this scenario, when I'm flying and I have tailwinds, I want to stay. I am looking at how the winds go about the mountain. So it's like water. It goes over the top, then goes down the valley and goes again up the hill. So I want to have updraft, right, rather than downdraft. So I will fly on downwind side, right? Yeah. So I understand how it works, but I'm mixing upwind and downwind sometimes, explaining it. So from there, it's again that you fly in the valley, gorgeous, beautiful views. I'll show some pictures, and then we get to Richfield. In Richfield, I had to cross again around these mountains, and I didn't fly this way because the altitudes are pretty high. So I actually followed the road. I followed the road, IFR, and it's a very big road. Gave me another opportunity in case of engine failure and not a lot of cars. Very straight, even though it shows like a lot of turns here, but there are a lot of straight, no obstacles whatsoever. So cross this way and continued in this valley. And another area where I had to deal with terrain was right past Carbon County Regional. So here I actually followed this river a little bit to the east. It wasn't as straight as it shows here because you can see some of those mountains peaks pretty high. But if you follow the river level is not that high, about 7,000 feet MSL. From there it was Maitan VOR and finally Vernal. On arrival to Vernal, I had to deal with lack of coverage. Of course, I was on a flight following, but they had some issues communicating with me, so they lost radio contact and radar to my aircraft. When I approached Vernal, surface winds were calm, but here in the mountain ridge, it was a little bit windy. So my stepson was not feeling that well, and it was for a short period of time. When I landed in Vernal, first thing that somebody told me on the ground, "Hey, are you such and such?" I said, "I am." "Well, the flight service lost you. They were looking for you." Like, okay, I made it fine, so you can tell them I'm okay. So they closed my flight plan. I did file flight plans on all legs except like shortest ones, but I did use flight following in all portions of my flight. So at Vernal, all I did, I just landed, checked the aircraft, checked oil, whatever. We went, had a quick lunch. They have good service there, gave us a car. We came back in less than an hour and continued. So that was already 1 p.m. Mountain time. And the airport altitude is 5,274. So it's with actual density altitude, it was probably close to 8,000. So aircraft didn't feel as well. I had to I leaned to maximum RPMs before takeoff, and it was an eventful departure. The aircraft performed great. So where was my pass from here? Because you see, I didn't cross the Rockies quite yet, so I still have right in front of me, straight to the east, is Colorado and the highest mountain peaks. So by looking at the terrain, my option was to fly in this valley, following the river, go to this Cherokee VOR, and continue along the road, the Interstate 80. That's exactly what I did, so, and I'll show you that part of a flight. So that.
You made it to Vernal without refueling, or did you have to stop?
Yeah, I have totally 64 gallons of fuel, and
You have a moon?
yes, and it burns M20F at 75 power, lean, reach of peak, slightly reach of peak. It burns less than 10 gallons an hour. So I landed with about an hour and a half of reserve. And actually, I learned what my aircraft can do in such a long cross country, and I was always monitoring the fuel gauges and everything. So I realized that my fuel gauges show that I have less fuel than I actually have. After refueling, I only took about 46 gallons of fuel. So I have actually almost 20 gallons of fuel aboard. My lowest fuel was on the way back. I had quite a bit of headwind, so I burned more, and I had to go around the weather. I'll show you some pictures what it looked like on ADS-B weather radar, but I never was less than an hour and a half of reserve. Longest leg was a little bit over, like marginally over 5 hours. So yeah, I'll load that part. Actually, I'll show you how flight plan looked like.
Were you planning on like wheels up at like 6 or 7 in the morning?
I left at 7:15, 7:20 in the morning. Made it around noon to Vernal, local time, and we had lunch and continued. My plan was to fly at least another 4 hours to get close enough to Oshkosh, so I would only have one last short flight. Well, the things didn't work out as I exactly planned, but I'll talk about it. So my next leg was, that was actually, I can show you what the weather looked like, because it captures the weather at the time of a passage. So it was interesting, right? So when I was approaching the Cherokee VOR, this cell on the bottom right here, when I departed Vernal, it was about right on top of my route. So, okay, I was thinking I should probably take a little bit northeast, and go around it, because the trend was indicating that the cell is moving southeast. So I would exactly arrive at Cherokee VOR when the cell moved past my path. And actually, when you fly around thunderstorms, it's better to be, of course, where it was already passed, rather than on its direct area of passage. But the traffic controller obviously wasn't a pilot, because he suggested, oh, there is a big, massive storm on your way, and I will give you directions how to go around it. And he gives me a direction to this one, KLR, right? And like, okay, and I start looking at terrain. Terrain is not in my capability, even though Mooney can climb to 15,000 feet, but I don't have oxygen on board to fly a long period there. Plus, the trend shows the storm cell will be right in front of me. So first, I agreed to the direction the controller gave me, and then after I analyzed, I say unable. I will go north around it. And he's like, oh yeah, there is more than one way to deal with it. Okay, fine. So again, keep in mind, don't really do what controller tells you to do unless you really understand the consequences of complying with that. So and after I changed my direction, so if I show you my real path, you'll see that I started flying that way, but then I changed my flight. So that would be KWell to this one. So that's what it looked like. So he gave me direction, started flying towards KLR, and then I changed. No, I'm not going there because terrain gets worse and worse, and the storm is right in front of me, and I'm not going to deal with it very well. So I went back, and by the time the storm passed and I flew, got on my route, and it was pretty much straight. So while it was straight, here I had to deal with another little thunderstorm, so I took a little bit path around it and resumed on my original plan. My plan was to go actually to one of the airports in the vicinity of KSUX, but it was a small airport, KLRJ. So my intent was to get here to KLRJ. Why? Well, I looked at all the airports available, gas prices, facilities, comments in the airport information on ForeFlight, and I learned that this little city is, for some reason, the ice cream capital of the world in Iowa. I'm like, okay, that's interesting. Let's see what they have. But there was a lot of thunderstorms developing by the time I got to this area, to KONL airport, O'Neill. And I was looking what my options are. I'm not getting to my destination because they have a lot of active cells. So I decided, okay, I deviate to this one, Sioux Falls Airport. Like they have good facilities, nice feedback about the FBOs, etc. Fuel prices not so good, but so what. Started flying there. So you can see for a short while I advised ATC that I'm diverting to that airport, but then the PIREPs coming in that there are pop-up thunderstorms right in the vicinity of airport. Like, okay, I'm not liking it. The radar showed that, by the way, keep in mind the radar report through DSB is delayed anywhere like from few minutes to half an hour. And it's not perfect, and sometimes pay attention that the map will tell you the radar coverage is unavailable. So you will not know if there is actual weather report in the area you are flying to. So I looked around, I was like, okay, I like this little airport, Norfolk Regional, nice paved runways, good comments on it, so I diverted there. Landed, no problem. And then I learned that, yeah, it's a nice airport, great pavement, but FBO is closed, no Uber, no Lyft. The city actually is like maybe 2 miles away, and the only way to get there by foot. Like, okay, fine. We started walking there until we met a police officer who gave us a ride in the back of his cruiser to the hotel. So that was another cool
With or without bracelet?
Without. He actually was very apologetic about it, but it was cool. The people were fine, and we spent the night there, had a nice dinner, woke up early in the morning. How do we get back? Well, no taxi in that small city, no Uber, no Lyft again. So what do? I call FBO. The FBO manager came and picked us up, took us to the airport. We had a good conversation. Fuel prices were very good. So that part you can see from the flight log was 5 hours long due to a little bit of zigzag flying, and total distance was 572 nautical miles. The previous leg from Chino to KWell was actual flying a little bit less than 5 hours, and the distance covered was about the same. So I can easily fly 600 nautical miles, manage my bladder properly en route, and don't drink too much, don't eat anything dry, and it was fine.
What was your true airspeed on average?
Going there was very nice. Sometimes reached over 150 knots, and my top was 160, 163. My yellow arc starts at 180 miles per hour. My maximum never exceeds is 200 miles per hour. The only time I reached pretty much end of that 200 yellow arc was on return when I was descending quickly to China. It was smooth air, so it was nice, fast descent. But coming back, I had a lot of headwinds, and it was probably 120, 130 knots ground speed. But it's a good aircraft, flies great. All right, so what happened next? So my next plan, so in one day we covered what, 110, 1100 nautical miles, give or take. And then I thought, okay, I'll fly kind of relatively short leg from Norfolk to small aircraft, very straight line, no terrain there, 4,500 feet MSL, nice in the morning, no weather, all great. The MOA was cold, nothing was interfering with our path. Why I chose this little airport? Because of the fuel price. It was $4.95. And they had burgers, hot dogs. The local EA chapters was very welcoming, and they had a club car. We actually took a club car and went to the city. So initial plan was, okay, I'll fly there, get cheap fuel, and get in line. But the weather was a little different. Let me see how I can show it to you. See, I probably can have it here. A lot of pictures. Oh, that's how the aircraft looked like inside. Well, that's a second row and the baggage. Of course, weight and balance was carefully calculated, every bag, everything. So I was a little bit tail heavy, but nothing to be concerned about. So some of this is what weather looked like when I arrived to that little airport, New Lisbon. So you see the big storm system was going straight across, and it was changing direction, so it was going across the path of arrival to Oshkosh, but then it went straight to Oshkosh, and they had a lot of fun there, those people who landed. So I looked at it, I thought about it, then I looked at it again, and I decided this is where we are, and another storm system is going the same direction, so we agreed with airport manager that we will just stay overnight at that little airport. In the morning, no concerns with the storms, the weather is nice. Hopefully, in my mind, Sunday morning, maybe not so many people on a Fisk arrival path. Well, I was a little wrong, and the weather was a little foggy, so the temperature dew point spread was like really marginal, 2 degrees Celsius. And what it means fog, ground fog mostly. But at the airport I was departing, the far end of the runway was slightly foggy. I calculated my takeoff would be about midfield, so I would not get into that. So it was okay. I departed around 7:15 in the morning or so, and got into the arrival process. Oshkosh was open, of course I checked ATIS and everything, so I got to, let me show it to you. this one. Okay, that's a lot of fun. So the first entry point is Endeavour Bridge, but they were actually initiating at the lake. I forgot what the lake is. Puckaway Lake. So that's why you can see I went a little bit around, because there were some of the aircraft returning back in the queue coming from the north. So I gave them a little space, went to the Puckaway Lake and entered there. And then I entered right here, this lower portion here. And then because of the poor visibility at Oshkosh, ATC was advising to keep 2 miles distance between aircraft. Nobody kept 2 miles distance. It was very close. It was probably sometimes 500 feet from aircraft to aircraft. It was nuts. But people were trying to slow down. I was trying to slow down and keep other aircraft behind me, but they would simply overtake me. So two aircraft overtook me, and they were actually complaining, speed up, speed up. Like, we have to have 2 miles. They didn't give a crap, so I turned left. I went around the lake, and I was like, okay, give it another try. So I went around the lake, again lined up, picked the aircraft, which hopefully would work, started doing the same thing. And because 2 miles, it looks long, it looks far. So people were coming in from the other side, and they see this, and there's an opportunity, like right in between. So I was like, okay, that's not working. So I went back. By the time I went back, around 2 lakes now, it's a green lake, they sent us all the way to Endeavour Bridge. So, okay, again, I lined up. I'm like, okay, this time I will not give up. I will try to get it to Fisk and let traffic controller decide who goes back in the line. So I picked it up and I stayed there. So some guy on canard, right? So the prop in the back. Fast airplanes, he again overtook me, but at the controllers, they're doing a good job. Actually, they see every aircraft. They told that guy, go back in line. And when I reached Fisk, they told me, 36 left, which is a real runway, was closed because the guy had a small incident. So we only had 36 right. So they sent me to 36 right, and I landed on Red Square. Russian pilot landed on the Red Square. That was funny. Of course, the ATC didn't know I'm Russian, but it was funny anyway. So, and they say...
Well, that's right, you're not talking on comms either, right?
Yeah, you're not talking to them. You are just listening.
You got your big ring
They're
light,
telling you, oh, yellow Mooney, rock your wings. You rock your wings, and they say, follow the road to the east. You assign 36 right. Okay, you follow the road, and good job, Mooney. You keep going. And then they say, land long, don't land sooner than Red Square. That's the only thing they want, because the aircraft which just landed in front of you with about maybe, half a mile in front, and you are following it, and then there is another aircraft right behind you. So I landed, and okay, maintain fast taxi until you see somebody at the end. Okay, don't turn away, blah, blah, blah. So you keep going, and then they turned me away, and they sent me all the way back. So you see, they made me park all the way on the south end. That's where they had space. The field was pretty full, so the way it works, you put like a big printed sign, like vintage aircraft parking or vintage aircraft camping. Since my aircraft is 1967, it's a vintage aircraft, so I used that. I was hoping I'll get a little bit closer to the to the area of civilization, but it didn't work. Anyway, the funny part was taxiing on grass. That was my first experience taxiing on a Mooney on the grass, and I knew what I had to do. So trim it nose up all the way and keep the yoke high and don't stop. Especially after big storm, the grass, although in a good condition, it was very soaky and wet. So yeah, I made it. That worked. Any questions so far?
The incident, was that the guy that hit his right wing in the crosswind? Or was that?
I actually don't know what the incident was, and I was so happy I landed, I didn't care. So altogether from departure, it was short distance, direct. If you go from that little airport to Oshkosh, it would be maybe at most half an hour. But because I had to make a couple of circles, it took me almost 2 hours, I think, to finally land.
Well, at least you're getting ready for IFR. That's how IFR.
Actually, it helped a lot because I'm going through practical IFR training. It helped with speed control, altitude control, and many other things. Listening what controllers have to say, etc. Now let me show you some pictures.
The goal of Oshkosh, right, is to get lots of good pictures and don't be on anybody else's viral videos, right?
Right.
Well, yeah, so there was accident-free all the way up until I left. I left, and then I made the first stop. I learned that they had 2 accidents and 4 fatalities on Saturday.
2 ultralights collided.
First of all, T6 spiraled down to lake, killing pilot and passenger. They just retrieved bodies like yesterday. And then in the around noon, 2 ultralights, home-built helicopter, and what is it? Another gyrocopter collided. And I was parked right on the pathway of the ultralights. I was like, that looks sketchy. All the small aircraft flying right over the camping area. So the helicopter, which collided with gyrocopter, went down, killing 2 people aboard, and landed on a Mooney Park with camping all around it. So there was a family staying right there, and they luckily were not at the site when the incident happened. So the aircraft is destroyed, the helicopter is destroyed. 2 people in a gyrocopter were taken to the hospital in a stable condition. So it was pretty sad day on Saturday at Oshkosh. Yeah, so the weather was very interesting, and it wasn't my first time. Last time I was flying with that instructor, he told me really how to avoid the weather, how to plan for it. So it was great. So I didn't have to. I did worry quite a bit sometimes because it was sketchy, and sometimes you would lose a DSB incoming data, so you don't know how. Actually, you do know. So that I can show you if you don't.
So towers out there.
Yeah, sometimes there are no towers and or bad poor coverage, so the DSB feed is delayed severely or non-existent. So the way you know, in my case, exactly where internet traffic shows, if you click with your finger, it tells you how old is the data. So compare with the real time and see if it makes sense to use the data for decision making, or maybe be a little bit more conservative about it. Yeah, so it was a lot of fun. The most scenic part of flight is crossing the Rockies, and then it gets flat and more flat, and then turns green, and it looks very flat. You can see you can see nothing but bean fields, green bean fields, and corn fields, and whatever else they grow there in Iowa and Nebraska, and so on and so forth. So yeah, so plan ahead, be ready to divert. I diverted 3 times in this trip, two times going there and coming back. My stepson didn't plan his morning routine right, so like, I cannot hold it anymore. Like, okay, so we landed, and it was a good choice because there was a cheap fuel and good FBO, and it was good experience overall. So I met Trent Ferris there. He was there with his son. I met Robin Kim from Santa Monica Squadron. Almost met David Powell, but we couldn't coordinate our plans. He was there and he departed earlier. My plan was, okay, I was actually expecting departure on Sunday because my vacation was through Monday, but I figured, okay, maybe we are done and it's a good time to go back. So we cut it short, 1 day left on Saturday. A lot of people, it's a 70th anniversary for AirVenture. Good program. I attended a lot of seminars for safety, weather related, accident prevention, what you do if you actually have engine failure, and many different scenarios. I made good connections. Actually, for safety meeting next week, if you don't mind, I have a great presentation which one of the NTSB presenters shared with me about weather-related accidents and how to plan ahead, how to prevent them, what to do if you find yourself in somewhat of a pickle, what kind of decision making pilots should make. So if you agree, I'll run with that presentation next. Yeah, I'll handle the safety meeting, so save you a little bit of hassle, and you can plan for the next one.
Did you see that Mike Beatty?
Hmm?
Did you hear about what happened to Mike Beatty?
No.
So he was flying that modified Lancer that he has. He put a PT6 turbo, turboprop. No, it's called turbulence. The engine exploded while he was at flight levels, and he glided all the way to the nearest airport. But it's a racing plane with a turboprop in it. And it literally exploded, like blew up, and he made it down.
Yeah, well, fly the airplane. No matter what
right.
happens, fly the airplane to the ground. Just fly it. Never give up on trying to fly it. That's a message which was going through all the safety presentations. There were very interesting stories, real life scenarios. A gentleman from some missionary flying group was presenting about his engine failure in Georgia, and he kept repeating. He didn't have any pictures or anything. Like, fly the airplane. First thing you do, just nose down, best gliding speed. I learned that apparently if you do all the way nose trim up, I didn't know it, honestly, you will put aircraft at minimum sink attitude. So you can, in most aircraft, very stable airframe, just trim all the way nose up and keep aircraft coordinated. That's all you need to do. You will not get best gliding, but you will surely keep it flying. Of course, if it's engine fire, it's a different story, but that's something I learned about it.
Is it your own panel?
Not for all airplanes. Yes, not. Yes.
Is your panel?
Yes. So I'll show you some of those pictures because I took those pictures for a reason. So this is, I have KX 155 and 530 in the middle. I have U-Avionics.
Did you ever get the panel from the people in Arizona?
I got the panel, I just never came about to install it. So that's my original panel. I removed all broken cover. Even I have some extra holes. So what?
USB ports.
Yeah, so this is the weather system I was flying around. I took a picture of that. So maintain about, well, good thing is to have at least like 20 miles away from the storm, but that's if storm coming at you. If you're going around the storm in the back, you don't have to really have that much of a space, especially if the sky is clear or broken and whatnot. And that's funny. Like, I covered it with foil so it doesn't overheat. It works.
Does that work?
It does work. Great.
Oh, really?
It didn't overheat the whole thing.
Did not work.
No, it worked. It
Oh.
did not overheat. And I had a charge. You see the charger plug.
So carry foil on the plane.
Carry the foil in the plane.
So don't get the expensive
Going back, it wasn't an issue because sun was mostly either in the back or on my kind of left. So because it starts in the east and goes, across the sky.
Right in front of the right seat, is that where you have the lost GPS? The radio?
Where? Which one?
The bot. Yeah, that one right there.
That's on the pen. Keep pressing it. That's Stratus. That's my. And I have a CO monitor. It's a inexpensive, like $100-something device, which works great. On departure from Vernal, it was hot. Aircraft was already hot, and it did give me the warning that my CO is a little bit high and was in 40s range. But improved ventilation, it wasn't an issue ever since.
Yeah, I noticed my hot timeouts I've been getting, like the headsets, they'll give me a little warning on hot timeouts.
Yeah, what else was there? Well, I can show you some pictures. This is, you probably can recognize it on the way to Vegas. These are the power solar stations. This is how the mountains look like.
Did you ever resolve your 530 issue?
No, I still don't have VOR properly working on 530. Let's see. I'll show you that. That's what it looked like, that small New Lisbon airport, that storm coming across. It was mean looking sky. This is us. We just landed, parked, didn't even do the tie down yet. We were happy to be on the ground 1500 miles later from the start. A lot of nice airplanes, good presentations. That's a whole bunch of canards.
Yeah,
Long easies. They didn't publish exact numbers, but they had well over 10,000 aircraft visiting. It was, they say it's a record event. Civil Air Patrol, boys and girls, don't let anyone go on the flight line. Some cool stuff. Oh, they had Super Guppy flying in.
Yeah, they showed that one on the news landing.
Weird looking machine. Very rare thing. I don't think they have any flying Yak-3s in Russia, but here is the real one. It's not replica. It was flown by Squadron commander in May 1945. So it was a very rare piece. Well, they start every air show with jumpers, and they bring a flag, sing an anthem. It was good. The fireworks were fantastic at night show. a lot of them. My stepson spent all the time in welding again, and he made it to the newspaper for Air Venture. The only person who consistently spent 2 weeks, 1 week every year, just doing welding, nothing else. He wasn't interested about anything on Air Venture whatsoever. Just welding, gas welding, and TIG welding. It was funny. That's a beautiful aircraft right there, making a lot of noise. That's a 35. A Sonics with a turbine.
I heard that thing's $65,000 just the motor.
Yeah. I went to the seaplane base. It was very quiet, nobody was flying. One aircraft was taxiing on the lake, probably was about to depart, but went. I didn't see it departing. Here is me and Trent. We had a very cool 70th anniversary L, so it was good. That was interesting. So I departed Oshkosh on Sunday. It was clear VFR, and as I climb out, I see the clouds started to cover the area. This is what it started to look like, and then it was like this for a while. So you fly on top, and there is nothing, really no holes at all. It was solid deck at about 33,000 feet, 2,500 maybe. My stepson was sleeping, and then it started to break up, and then clear, flat and clear. Very cool. And it's amazing to even see how the storm clouds build. So first it's just a little bit of a haze, then puffy clouds form little by little, then they get bigger, mean looking, start darkening, etc. So first morning leg was easy, smooth air, completely uneventful, and I was observing, so some of my instruments like flickering, like oil temperature, like doing this. And after I landed, refueled, it was gone. There was no problem again. That's a small airport we diverted to. Then flying to Vernal, my plan was the same. I want to make it all the way to Vernal, spend the night there, and have an easy flight early morning to China. There was a lot more convective SIGMETs, so small thunderstorms started to form. This is how they look, and I know that I don't want to go straight. I will go around it. And you see, like, there are small puffy clouds below. They go up and up, create big clouds, etc. So this was my original plan, but you see there are storms. So I started flying a little bit north, and I was watching this one on the left, hopefully looking based on trend, by the time I get to Cherokee VOR it will be gone. Well, it was not moving as fast, so I ended up going a little bit more around it. And that's how they look. And you see if it rains under it, how heavy it is. If you see a lot of black almost lines, it's very bad. Yeah, that's it. That was some beautiful scenery there. This guy, this is obviously Trent, and this guy in the red t-shirt is a Russian welder. Mark met him at the welding shop. He lives in Texas. That's aircraft he built, and cool guy. And, oh, this was Trent sent it to me because I already left. It was Saturday air show. MiG-29 privately owned, and MiG-17s. They were flying information. The MiG-29 used to belong to co-founder of Microsoft, Paul Allen. And then this fresh, young, multi-billionaire bought it from him, Jared Isaacman. And Jared flies this aircraft as his personal commuter. He flies to work on it.
Yeah, and MiG-29 has like the worst fuel management of like fighter jet. So
Definitely not for fuel economy.
He's literally lighting money on fire.
Mark is sleeping. This is already that's what it looks like from obstacle clearance perspective. So yellow means it's like anywhere 100 to 1,000 feet. So as long as you stay clear, you're good. Don't fly into anything which looks red. It's me again. So the air in the morning was smooth, up until Vegas. So here is what 10,500. So all the way back was not higher than 10,500, and I went over Las Vegas class Bravo at 10,500. And this is, I think, no, it's not Vegas yet. This is Zion Park. Very nice. Yeah, that's a screenshot I took to show what hazard advisor on ForeFlight shows. So again, like bright yellow is close to be dangerous, and red is pretty much at your level. So this is again coming back the same way. I flew along the road until I cleared all the mountains and turned towards the rich field.
What's that blue boundary for you to stay in?
Yeah, so this is like the blue boundary, this line is your gliding distance in ideal circumstances. This is what you can get if you configured your glide ratio properly.
And actually, a low wing, the wingtip, what you see on the ground from the wingtip is far different
Yeah.
at any altitude.
Yeah.
And it gives you an idea of terrain, also it hugs the terrain, so you know, like, don't go there. This is much better. This is Lake Mead, close to Vegas. You see there is a lot of haze. There is a cloud deck on the left, very heavy precipitation. There is a fire, which is getting worse from what I read. And we cleared that. These are the solar stations. And that was it. So that's what it looked like on approach to Vegas. So that was my original flight plan, but I decided to take a shortcut because the system was actually bigger than the radar was showing. Although you can see the Stratox shows good, that wasn't the case. The weather was much worse than the Stratox was showing.
Oh, that's the connection to the ADSB network.
Yeah, that's just connection. So the radar itself didn't make it to a DSB network or whatever, I don't know. And then past Vegas, there were few smaller cells which were not even showing on radar. So don't really rely just on the radar itself. Look outside and act accordingly. All right, any questions? Say again? Oh, the yellow vest is my emergency equipment. Whatever, if in case of emergency, what you have on you is your probably gonna save you. So I have a lot of pockets, and I have my most important stuff on me. Everything else is a camping gear, as we say. So we should probably have one of the safety meetings talk about your safety equipment and what to have on you, what to have in aircraft for different scenarios.
A fishing vest works very well.
That's a fishing vest on Amazon, like $20 or something, inexpensive. It's breathing, so it's not adding any heat, and has a lot of pockets. And they have different colors, so whatever you like.
A lot of guys in the Air Force used to have those. Very well.
Yeah. So it was good flight. If you're a pilot, go for it at least once. Maybe you're not gonna like it. It's hot, humid, a lot of walking around, but every day I spent in some kind of seminar. So at least up until 1 o'clock, until lunch, I would go and listen to something, learn something, and then I walk around, see what's going on, bring some cash, buy some good deals.
Yeah. What day did you get there?
Huh?
What day did you get there?
Arrived on, what is it, 21st we departed, 22nd, 23rd on Sunday.
Oh, got there on Sunday.
And we left on 29th.
Oh, it's beautiful.
Yeah. Yeah, whole week. Gas at Oshkosh is very expensive. I didn't have to buy a lot. They really take advantage of people. It was the most expensive gas in probably like 500 miles radius. Well, it's okay. I only bought like 15 gallons of that.
How many gallons total did you?
I still didn't calculate yet, but like I can tell about 46 first leg, about the same the second leg, about 15 gallons going to that small town, so that's puts me about 105, 110. So about 220, 230 gallons, I would say, altogether. An average I can tell was about 550 average price. So it's about what 5 times about $1,200 maybe on gas. If I drove, probably it would be maybe half, maybe not. I don't know.
Yeah, it's cheaper outside of California.
Yes, the gas in Oshkosh, in the city, the regular automobile gas is just $3.20.
By the way, wholesale gas as of last Friday was at the regular was $2.96. That's wholesale. And you add all your taxes to it, you're up to $5 here in California.
Yeah, that's a cost of our California government, I
That's
guess.
because we import all. California imports about 60% of their oil. The others got them all shut down. In fact, on avgas, they're shutting down. Oakland is stopping Richmond, which is the Chevron oil, for 100 oil meg. They get it shut down. So it means they'll probably come out of Phoenix, Arizona for the next batch. Of exit.
Okay, well, the meeting is over. Thank you for those online who listened. Hopefully it wasn't too boring.
Looks like fun.
Yeah, some other interesting